Okay, you're almost there. We're now at the final project submission, and it comes down to communicating your decision. So what we've come through throughout the course are the different departments that we've had to reach out to for information. And once we have that information in raw format, how do we process it so that it makes sense and helps us make the right decision for the organization? So we go back to the very first week in operations when we got to see how operations has the bird's eye view of the organization and is really connected to all of the different departments. A CEO or business executive may actually be the operations director or may also act as the main operational decision maker for the firm, or it may be a component of an operations manager role. So it's important that we not only learn how to process the information quantitatively and qualitatively, but that we also are able to communicate it in a way in which other departments and other leaders can understand and in a way that makes sense for them. This is probably the biggest challenge in operations management. It's seen as a business science, so we often forget that as part of that science, communication is critical. If we have all of the right answers, those answers don't mean anything if we can't execute them or implement them in the organization. And in change management, we know that implementation of a large change, or any change for that matter, can be impossible if we don't have the support of leadership and if we don't have the support of the employees that are going to be required to implement that change over the long term. So again, I go back to this is really the most important piece of the project, though it will likely take you the least amount of time because it doesn't require a lot of mathematical work. Rather, how do we communicate that work that we've done so far? So these are the submission requirements, and these are also going to be posted on your course website under the final project materials. But we finally have, like I said, all of the information we need to complete a decision tree and qualitative assessment of the organization. So prepare a 10 to 15 slide presentation outlining the following. And the reason we go into depth on the company background and mission statement is that, again, we're presenting this information either to an executive board or a group of employees that we need to buy into this change process and what this assessment has looked like over the last few months while we've been completing it. So we want to make sure that we include the company background in the mission statement that we created in Module 1. We're going to show how those decisions, all of the decisions and options that we came across during this process, and why the decision we made aligns with that mission statement. Because again, strategy and mission are integral to ensuring that we are continuing the success of the business and continuing to stay along the lines in which the business was formed. So we're going to go over the meeting results. What I don't want to see in this is a lot of big tables and charts and data. Those tend to, in meetings, they tend to shut people down. They don't want to read through them. They may not even understand them. How can you communicate what you learned specifically without including the raw charts and tables that you completed in order to learn that information? Then we'll have the decision tree analysis. You may also use another graphical representation of your analysis. Essentially, you should have an expected value for each of the options and what that option looks like. And then you're going to have your final decision and why. It may not be that you chose the most profitable option because the most profitable option doesn't align with the overall mission statement that you created in week 1. So in addition to supporting the decision that you made, you'll also need to support the alternatives that were rejected. And finally, go over the quantitative results of your final decision. What were the revenue gained? Do you have to hire or terminate any employees? And if there's sales employees, which ones would you recommend terminating and why? So this is going to go back to that Module 4 analysis worksheet that you completed. How many employees would you actually need in order to meet those sales demands that were forecasted? That should have automatically been completed for you in that worksheet format. And if you don't need all 7 sales employees, then take a look at the demand for the chairs that you selected and the sales forecasted for the chairs that you selected based off of employee average sales, and which ones would make most sense to keep. Again, it may not be the person that sells the most. It may be the person that sells the right mix of chairs to fit with the selection that you made. So this one is all about just creating this presentation. There is no raw data to turn in for this submission. This is all about how can we communicate this decision. So again, as always, let me know if you have any questions. There are multiple videos on completing the decision tree and completing the final analysis phase. But again, that raw data is not submitted for this submission. The final submission is simply the 10 to 15 slide PowerPoint presentation.